Meeting Tuesday, August 27, 2024. If you'd please take a moment to silence your cell phones, any other electronic devices that you may have, so that we can be respectful to the speakers and the presenters today that will be before us. We're going to begin our day with the invocation by Reverend Jared Jones of the Holy Cross Episcopal Church, and the pledge will be led by Mr. Timothy Jacks. Please rise.
Let us pray. Almighty God, who has given us this good land for our heritage, we humbly beseech Thee that we may always prove ourselves a people mindful of Thy favor and glad to do Thy will. Bless our land with honorable industry, sound learning, and pure manners. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil way. Defend our liberties, and fashion into one united people the multitudes brought hither out of the many kindreds and tongues. Endue with the spirit of wisdom those to whom in Thy name we entrust the authority of government, that there may be justice and peace at home, and that through obedience to Thy law we may show forth Thy praise among the nations of the earth. In the time of prosperity fill our hearts with thankfulness, and in the day of trouble suffer not our trust in Thee to fail. All which we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Jacks, and thank you, Pastor Jones. We sincerely appreciate you coming down and blessing our proceeding this morning. First items up will be proclamations and presentations. The first proclamation proclaiming Chief Petty Officer Gary Shearing, United States Navy, as Seminole County's August Veteran of the Month, will be read by Commissioner Andrea Herr.
It's my honor to read the following proclamation of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners recognizing United States Navy Chief Petty Officer Gary Christian Shearing for his outstanding service to the United States and Seminole County. Whereas the brave men and women of our Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Space Force demonstrate a resolute spirit and unmatched selflessness, reminding us there are few things more American than giving of ourselves to make a difference in the lives of others. And whereas throughout our country's history, generations of service members have answered the call to leave their families, their jobs, and put their futures and even their lives on the line to valiantly defend our nation. And whereas for many service members, the sacrifice has ended in permanent injury or death, yet their spirit remains in the continued preservation of our freedoms and the promise of liberty. And whereas there are more than 30,000 living veterans in Seminole County who served our nation in times of peace and war, through their service they kept America strong. And whereas Chief Petty Officer Gary Shearing enlisted in the Navy in October of 1963 and served honorably until his retirement in February of 1984. He was deployed to Vietnam in the late 1960s on the USS NOA, serving as a sonar technician. And whereas Chief Petty Officer Gary Shearing moved to Sanford in April of 1987, where he worked for the Seminole County government as a traffic engineer until his retirement in 2008. His responsibilities included maintaining the electronic components and timing of the traffic signals in Seminole County. And whereas Chief Petty Officer Gary Shearing was instrumental in the conversion of copper wiring to fiber optic wiring for all of the county's traffic signals, which allowed faster bandwidth and transmission to all traffic signals. And whereas Chief Petty Officer Gary Shearing was the certification chairman for the International Municipal Signal Association for the state of Florida, where he was the certifying official for all traffic signal technicians in the state. And whereas Chief Petty Officer Gary Shearing was the treasurer, hold for it, of the Lake Mary Little League and coached both baseball and softball youth teams in early 2000s. And whereas Chief Petty Officer Gary Schering has brought great credit and distinction upon himself, the United States of America, the United States Navy, and Seminole County. Now therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the Board of County Commissioners of Seminole County, Florida, express our gratitude, our admiration, and our utmost respect for Chief Petty Officer Gary Schering for his outstanding service to the United States Navy and the residents of Seminole County. Be it further proclaimed that this proclamation is presented to Chief Petty Officer Gary Schering, along with our sincere congratulations and recognition as Seminole County's Veteran of the Month, adopted this 27th day of August, 2024.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Seeing none, carries unanimous. Congratulations, Mr. Schering. We appreciate you being here today. And please come to the podium and have any words of wisdom you'd like to share. And hopefully it's not on traffic lights.
I've talked about traffic lights enough. And one of the fellows that I wanted to mention is Robert Fitzgerald. He's the guy that does all the timing, which is why you sit at the side of it for so long. That's Robert Fitzgerald. I'd give you the phone number, but there's 3 guys in the back from the agency that wouldn't like that. I want to thank the commission for taking this time to honor a veteran. There's many here. And it seems like we come in, we do our job, and go away and go do something else, which is what I did. I did 21 years in the Navy, and then went and worked overseas for a while, and then came and worked for Seminole County. I was fortunate. I was taken under the wing of a fellow named John Harper, who really taught me a lot about traffic signals. I knew green, yellow, and red, and basically what they meant when I started. And he was a good instructor, a good man, and a rather simplistic individual who is really what we needed. I was fortunate enough to be working at traffic engineering when our first real traffic engineer, some of you will remember him, Bob Zaytuni, was hired, and he did quite a bit to modernize and push forward the goals of traffic engineering, which were clearly defined to everybody who worked there. He was the type of leader that I enjoyed working under in the Navy, and I found that out of the 3 traffic engineers that I worked for, all 3 of them possessed a good trait that I refer to as lead, follow, or get out of the way. And all 3 of them possessed to some degree that trait, that they had good people, they hired good people, and then they let them go and do their job, which quite frequently isn't true in government. I wanted to mention Bob because he was a very controversial individual, as some of the commissioners will remember. After he left, a lady named Melanie Barrington took over, and she was a different person, different type of leader, still very effective, still very true to her cause, and she ended up working in Washington, D.C., and is kind of moved up the ranks pretty quick up there. And the current team, Charlie Wetzel and Steve Douglas, they carry on that tradition. Charlie's a good traffic engineer. He understands what the heck he's talking about. He's got a noble assistant, Steve, and they work together to make things better. I think Charlie's the one that kind of enforced on me with a group of people. Sometimes you have the higher achievers and lower achievers, and he told me how to get one of the lower achievers to move a little bit. He said, lead follower, get out of the way, and don't take any prisoners. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. If you would stand by for us, we're going to get some pictures here after this next proclamation, sir. Thank you very much. Our next proclamation is proclaiming Bonnie Sprung as Seminole County's 2024 Artist of the Year. This will be read by Commissioner Lee Constantine.
Thank you, Commissioner Zimbauer. And being that this is the 30th anniversary of the Seminole Cultural Arts Council, I take great pride in moving the proclamation of proclaiming Bonnie Sprung as the recipient of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners 2024 Artist of the Year Award. Whereas the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners and the Seminole County Arts Council acknowledge the significant role that the arts play in the quality of life of the residents of Seminole County and support the Artist of the Year program. And whereas Seminole County Board of County Commissioners wishes to acknowledge the contributions of individual cultural artists, performers, visual artists, historians, and authors as Artist of the Year who have contributed to the enrichment of Seminole County and who are active in the community for the advancement of the arts. And whereas Seminole County Board of County Commissioners will honor local artist Bonnie Sprung, who is a set and stage designer, photographer, scene painter, graphics artist, magazine writer, fine arts painter, and art instructor. And whereas Bonnie, a resident of Altamont Springs, earned an Associate of Arts degree at Valencia Community College and a Bachelor of Arts from Hofstra University in New York, ultimately with a major in theatrical production and a minor in graphic design, owns Uniquely Sprung Art Studio and is known throughout Central Florida and New York for her hundreds of innovative set designs which are in high demand for both large and small theaters. And as a creative theatrical manager, employing her expertise in makeup, perspective drawing, scene painting, 2- and 3-dimensional design, drafting, and layout. And whereas Bonnie Sprung is freelanced as a graphics artist, magazine photographer, and writer, mastered the art of theatrical photography, including actors, headshots, and capturing bodybuilders on film, and has photographic works published, and now owns Muscular Motion Gym in pursuit of her love of fitness. And whereas Bonnie has had more than 30 years' experience curating and judging art exhibits and high school thespian competitions, shows her own award-winning paintings, including large portraits, mixed media works, and photography as sole and group exhibits, creates and sells wearable art, and being green-minded, produces unique disc art from CDs and DVDs, conducts art demonstrations and workshops, and has her works in both public galleries and private collections. And whereas Bonnie is the past president and member of the Florida chapter of Women's Caucus for Art, was on the Red Chair Orlando project, and has been an indispensable member of the Seminole County Arts Council Board for more than 10 years, volunteering for every fundraiser and event in support of the Seminole County Arts Council and art and culture in Seminole County. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners wishes to commend Bonnie Sprung for her promotion of arts throughout Seminole County and Central Florida. And be it further proclaimed that this proclamation be spread upon the official minutes of the Clerk of the Circuit Court in and for the County of Seminole, and presented to Bonnie Sprung with the best wishes on her selection as the 2024 Artist of the Year.
Second.
As I said, so moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, carries unanimous. Congratulations, Ms. Sprung. Then we have Commissioner Anthony Armadillo from the City of Castleberry, which will give us about a 2-minute presentation.
Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Anthony Armandi. I am the President of the Seminole Cultural Arts Council. As you've heard, it is our 30th anniversary this year, so this is one way that we're kicking it off. As you've heard as well, we are the recipients of the State of the Arts license plate. So all those funds go back into the community. So I stress to everybody, if you support the arts and culture in Seminole County, go ahead and apply for a State of the Arts license plate. And our biggest fundraiser is going to be held this coming year, February 1st, at the Castleberry Arts Center as well. And I wish to see many of you there. Now, we're going to go ahead and do a small little clip on who Bonnie Sprung is.
Apologies, we were expecting him to do the presentation first, not the video, so the presentation is first.
Well, he had 2 minutes. He's down to 30 seconds. Move on. Sometimes there's a lot to be said for old technology. This
Yes,
will be
it
one of
is.
those moments when you,
This is, says this is.
Sometimes paper says it all.
that's right.
Here we go.
That's a good sign.
How about that Lake Mary Little League?
Yeah. Indeed.
Bonnie Sprung may have been born in New York, but she's the pride of Seminole County. She's lived in Altamont Springs for almost 40 years. Bonnie has always described herself as having been born with a paintbrush in her hand. She's a talented artist who's favored diverse mediums from photography to painting to the creation of mixed media art installations like her award-winning Disc Art series. She also has extensive experience in graphic design within digital arts, theater production with a specialty in set design and makeup, and many other creative endeavors in between. The Seminole Cultural Arts Council selected Bonnie as Artist of the Year for many reasons. However, two of the most compelling things about Bonnie that contributed to her selection were the breadth and diversity of her design portfolio and her long-standing record of service within the community. Quite simply, Bonnie is everywhere. She's participated in countless cultural events over the years, like the Orlando Fringe Festival. She served as a volunteer and judge in many student art exhibits at Valencia College, Seminole State College, and for Seminole County Public Schools. She's also a member of the Florida chapter of the Women's Caucus for Arts and a longtime supporter and board member for SCAC. Simply put, Bonnie is wonderful, and we're also proud of her. As president of the Seminole Cultural Arts Council, I am pleased to introduce Bonnie Sprung as Seminole County's 2024 Artist of the Year. Again,
Thank you.
Bonnie Sprung.
Ms. Sprung, would you like to have a few words quickly? Welcome.
Well, I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Seminole Cultural Arts Council. I'm just overwhelmed and just thankful and grateful. And this is really just a surprise and just thank you. Fantastic. This is great.
Thank you. All right, if the commission would meet me on the floor to have photographs taken with Chief Gary and Ms. Sprung, we'll get that out of the way while our investment advisor's getting keyed up. Thank you all for your patience, and as we're waiting for the chambers to clear of those participants, we've got our investment advisor, Mr. Scott McIntyre, approaching and is now ready to give us a presentation. If you're ready, sir, please proceed.
I am, and I'll be respectful of your time. It sounds like you guys are in a bit of a rush today, and that's great. That's fine. Inflation continues to slow down. It continues to cool. That's good. It's not cooling as fast as the market is priced in. The labor market concerns have recently emerged, so the Fed is now concerned about the deterioration in the labor market, although I think that those concerns are overblown. The economy appears to be slowing a little bit, but at the beginning of August, recession was all over the headlines. Recession does not appear to be on the horizon. The Fed meets on September 18th, so we're getting pretty close to the Fed meeting. The question is whether they cut 25 or 50. They're going to cut. They've signaled that last week loud and clear. The market seems to have gotten ahead of itself. Yields are quite a bit lower in anticipation of a series of rate cuts. The market is now priced in 225 basis points of rate cuts between now and the end of next year, which is fairly aggressive given the fact that the Fed has pledged to be patient. One of the reasons that the rate cuts are all queued up is because inflation seems to be moving down. But you can look at the tail end of that graph and see that the moving down part has not been all that dramatic. Inflation is still going to be sticky. Home prices are still at record highs. We've been really, really lucky as far as what's going on in the Middle East because we haven't seen a spike in gas prices, and we'll hold our breath on that because energy has managed to pull inflation lower instead of moving higher. So we'll cross our fingers on that. This is something you can look at in your own time. I'm not going to go over all this, but this is the Bloomberg survey as of about a week ago. These are 75 economists. It's their opinion on where the two-year note will be, the overnight rate will be, the unemployment rate will be, et cetera. And again, it doesn't show the economy collapsing. It shows that GDP is expected to be around 2% roughly going forward out six quarters. It also shows that the unemployment rate, which actually got down to or up to 4.3%, at least in the mind of these economists, has peaked. So, the idea that the labor market is going to deteriorate when we are essentially still a percentage point below full employment is probably, again, a case of getting ahead of itself. So that brings us to where rates are. And as you can see, I try to do this to where I leave up the yields as of the previous meetings. And if you focus on the 24-month of the two-year Treasury, you see that we're almost 100 basis points lower than we were several meetings ago. That doesn't mean the Fed has cut rates. It means that the Fed is anticipating cutting rates. So the market, again, is two steps ahead always. Fortunately, we have gotten out, and when yields were higher, we did a lot of investing. And right now, the bird in hand is a 5.50 overnight rate. You're about 85% fixed, 15% floating. So you're relatively well invested for a drain period. The market has moved so fast in such a short period of time that my recommendation is to hold steady until September. And hold steady means that we're not going to jump out and invest at 390 or 370. We're going to stay overnight at 550. And I understand that in September that's going to be lower. It's going to be lower again in November. It's going to be lower at year end. But I expect we'll end year end with the overnight rate still above 5%. So we also have the flip of the election, and that's going to have ramifications. Both candidates are expecting tariffs, which are inflationary. So I do want to mention one other thing. If you look at the portfolio statistics as of the last good date, the portfolio yield is almost 4.90. It actually moves higher despite the fact that we're not doing anything in August because two maturities come off with lower yields and they go into higher yields. So I expect that your portfolio is going to be yielding close to 4.93 at the end of August. And so we're moving back up. We've gone from a period in 2021 where people talked about negative interest rates, where we peaked up at above 5%. We're moving back downward. So moving back to the recommendation, which feels like a paint by numbers throwaway, but the idea is we're going to adhere to the bird in hand at 550. Because we feel that the market right now is a little bit expensive, and we'll be back in September.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner?
I'd like to make a motion to implement the recommendation of our financial advisor based on the report submitted today and recommend the clerk implement said board recommendations.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Hearing none. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you all. It's good to see you.
We appreciate your attention to those matters. All right, up next, we're going to move to our consent agenda. I also want to mention that we have a couple of new faces on the dais today. We have Deputy County Attorney Nasa Bokert, and we also have Deputy County Manager Ms. Trish Johnson with us today. That are going to be acting in the stead of their leaders. So we'll go to Ms. Johnson, do we have any updates or changes on the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have one add-on item, item number 6A, related to IAFF Local 3254A Unit Collective Bargaining Agreement. The documents are in your folders.
Okay, 6A is an add-on, no deletions or removals.
No, sir.
Okay, any questions on any of those? Seeing none, I will move to the,
I do have
Commissioner
an
Hurd.
item to pull.
okay.
I'd like to pull item 26 just for discussion.
Item 26 for discussion by Commissioner Herr. Anyone
Mr. Chairman? Yes, I was going to wait and see if there was any public, but I also like to pull 14.
Item 14 by Commissioner Constantine. Okay, any other commissioner have a desire to pull anything else? Okay, seeing none, we will go to the county attorney to read the rules for public participation. I also will note that our fine sheriff is here today. We appreciate him being here. He will speak on item 17, 18, and 19. I would ask in respect of his time that we actually allow him to go before the rest of the public speakers that may need to get here, so he and his folks can get back out there and keep our community safe. So, Ms. Bogert?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Florida law provides that members of the public shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard on propositions before the Board of County Commissioners, except when the board is acting on emergency or ministerial matters or conducting a meeting exempt from the requirements of Sunshine Law. Individuals shall be permitted 3 minutes for each public comment or 6 minutes when the individual is an official representative of a formal association or group. The chairman may modify the maximum time for public comment at his sole discretion when appropriate. Public comments on quasi-judicial or other public hearing items will occur during the board's consideration of those items this afternoon. Public comments on pending procurement matters or on non-agenda items shall not be permitted at this time. Members of the public desiring to make comment on the consent agenda must fill out a speaker form and present the form to staff. Forms are available in the lobby.
Thank you very much. Be sure, if you want to speak on any of the consent agenda items, please bring your forms in, give them to the clerk, Ms. Dominique, here at the front desk. Make sure we get you set up to be able to speak. Dominique, is there anyone here that has filled out a form?
No, sir.
Anyone here for public input that has not filled out a form other than our great sheriff? Seeing none. Sheriff, the floor is yours, sir. Please come on down. And welcome and thank you for being here, sir.
Well, good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. It's an absolute honor to be here on this very important day in our history. The greatest responsibility that we have as a society is to ensure that those who serve and pay the ultimate sacrifice are never forgotten. It's from that moment that their families and our communities watch what we do. And I want to thank you all because you have gone out of your way to ensure that these heroes are memorialized. You've attended our memorial ceremonies. You have been strong partners with us, and for that, we are so incredibly thankful. This allows us to have 6 names of our heroes, all 6 who have been killed in the line of duty, and I specifically use that because 4 of our heroes were killed by adversarial gunfire and attack, and 2 others were killed during the performance of their duties, one jail fire and another in a pursuit vehicle with another motorist pulling in front of them. Dating back to 1922, Deputy Cleveland Jacobs, 1975, Deputy Robert Moore, 1977, Deputy George File, 1989, Deputy Hugh Thomas Jr., 1998, Deputy Eugene Gregory, and 2011, Deputy Matt Miller. All heroes. This is why we wear Roman numeral number 6 on our uniforms. This is why we have the Roman numeral 6 on the back of our patrol cars. making sure that communities who have never had the opportunity to live with or learn from these heroes, that their names last forever in our history, is so incredibly important. So this road designation by our incredibly generous board, our legislative body, and State Representative Bob Cortez, and now Seminole County Sheriff's Office Senior Administrator for Government Affairs, Bob Cortez, has really gone out of his way because he's played this on both sides. As a state legislator, he brought this and made sure that our heroes are never forgotten, and he continued to work with our governing bodies to ensure that that sixth name is added. So every person who passes by, every person who sees that name, know that there is some hero out there that served. Lastly, it is incredibly unique that the location of these designations are areas that these heroes served. So the people living in those communities, the people who pass by those signs, know that it's sacrifice and service above self. And for that, we're incredibly grateful. Thank you all for your leadership. Thank you for the support, not only the men and women of the Sheriff's Office, but public safety professionals, period. You are all great ambassadors of our military, our firefighters, our police officers, and our deputy sheriffs. And for that, we have a lot to be grateful here in Seminole County. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheriff, very much. We appreciate it. Any others from the public to the desire to comment that have not filled out a form? No others, Dominique? Yes. We will close public input.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Costain.
I move consent agenda on item number 4, constitutional officers, and 5 through 49, including 6A, but not including 14 or 26.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Carries unanimous. First item up is item 14 that was pulled by Commissioner Constantine.
Thank you very much. Just to be consistent, and as I've done in the past, this was an item that I voted against, and I feel that to be consistent, I will vote again against the final plat. Other than that, I have nothing to say about it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the commission, if I may.
Please do.
Okay. So, Commissioner, you're against the zoning, but you're not against the technical aspect of the plat itself, correct?
Since I am against the zoning, I'm against everything about the position,
But you
the
have no
project.
technical information against the plat.
No, I do not have anything against the
Thank you.
plat.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 14 as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Okay. Carries 4-1. Commissioner Herr, item 26.
Yes, I just like to bring this item forward for clarification purposes. There is a Cigna medical renewal that is happening, and it was not mentioned in the board item. I do know that the item was mentioned in terms of what the payroll deductions for the employees would be. I do know that Tim Jex has projected the budget item, but I wanted the commission to be aware of the fact that there should be a contract that comes back forward once Cigna renewal does come through. And I also wanted to notify our team that I would expect to see improvements to the pharmacy contract at the point that it comes through. That might be more of a notice for Cigna than anybody else. And then I would expect to see some of the additions to their contracts that they're putting in across the board. And some of them are simply programmatic. I would also like to point out that it would be my recommendation. In the item, it mentions that we shop dental, which it is time to do that. But I would add the worksite products to that Aetna policy and the Allstate policy. It is easier for our teams to have coverage all with one place, so having those two in two different locations, and I can tell you how it happened, but I won't do that, probably should be cleaned up. At the point that you're doing the dental, you probably can just do all of that. And the last comment that I would make is that because we no longer do those work sessions, and I'm not saying that we should go back to that, and that committee, it was not a good setup. But at some point, we do need to be getting regular updates in terms of claims information on the plan. It is just too much of a budget item for us to be not getting regular updates. There should also be an annual Cigna CAP report, which I would love to see when it comes out. And that's all I have.
Anyone else? Commissioner Lockhart.
I'm so glad you pulled this item to make those clarifications. I had a conversation with Christina Brandolini and Charles about, and poor Charles, he was in the car and moving, and we were in and out, we were losing each other, so we are setting up an additional meeting to go over many of the items that you just mentioned. We need to find a way for us to stay updated more regularly, other than how it had happened in the past. And I don't know, I agree, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but it is imperative from my perspective so that I can kind of understand where we're headed from a budget angle and not just be hit out of the gate with a number. So I concur. I love to have regular updates, and I think we've already addressed that, and I think maybe the next one has already been scheduled. But from the county manager's perspective, I'll leave that to you all to figure out the best way to keep each of us updated moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Duly noted, and our team will reconvene to discuss what those updates look like.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Commissioner?
With that, I'll move to approve the item as stated with the adjustments that we mentioned just now.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Seeing none, carries unanimously. Thank you all very much. We will now move on to our next item, which is item number 50 on our regular agenda. Reduction of lien request. Consider the request of a reduction of the Code Enforcement Board lien of $56,400 to $5,000 under case number 20-18-CEB on the property located at Leonard Street, Altamont Springs, 32701. Tax parcel ID 18-21-30-509-0000-0270. Joshua L. Moses is the applicant. And we will have Alexis Brignani giving us a presentation. Alexis?
For the record, good morning. My name is Alexis Brignoni. I am the clerk to the Code Board. I am presenting item number 50, which is a request from applicant Joshua L. Moses, the estate of Chester A. Vanderpill III, for a reduction of the code enforcement lien from $56,400 to $5,000. The property is located at Leonard Street, Altamont Springs. It is listed as a vacant parcel on the property appraiser website, parcel ID number 30-20-30-300-0180-0000 for case number 20-18-CEB. In summary, the property was cited on August 19th, 2019 by the code enforcement officer concerning the violation of Seminole County Chapter 95, Section 95.4, as defined in Section 95.3B, uncultivated vegetation. The original respondent at the time was listed as Chester A. Vanderpill III, and on the notification from the code enforcement officer, corrective action needed to be taken no later than September 6, 2019. Or this information will be brought before the board, the code enforcement board, at potentially a fine of $250 per day to start accruing pending a hearing. This matter was indeed brought to the board, and a findings of facts, conclusions of law and order was done by the board on January 23rd, 2020, concluding that the original respondent be in compliance no later than February 7th, 2020 at $50 a day, as the fine would be imposed for each day the violation continues or is repeated. These are the photos in the beginning. So the photo to the left was taken by the code enforcement officer in 2019, showing the uncultivated vegetation, and at the time of the meeting in January, showing that the violation had been remedied and the grass had been cut. On February 4th, 2021, a reinspection of the property yielded a result of the violation being repeated. A notification of this was filed with the clerk, and an affidavit of repeat violation along with a notice of hearing was sent to the original respondent on June 9th, 2021 to appear before the board on July 22nd of 2021. On July 22nd, 2021, an order finding non-compliance and imposing fine/lien on a repeat violation was done by the board, concluding a fine of $7,100 for 142 days of non-compliance from March 4th, 2021 through and including that meeting date, July 22nd, 2021 at $50 per day. Will continue to accrue for each day the violation is repeated past July 22nd, 2021. The order was sent to be recorded in the official records, book and page 10002/941-942. And then these are photos. The fee continued to accrue until April 4th, 2024, as the applicant remedied the violation after contact with the code enforcement officer assigned to the case. The code enforcement officer submitted an affidavit of compliance after repeat violation on April 22nd, 2024, and a letter of notification with the total amount of the lien went out to the applicant as he was handling the estate of the original respondent. On May 10th, 2024, the property was sold. A stipulation of the sale required holding the total amount of the lien in escrow. This is the administrative code criteria for the deputy county manager to determine if the request will fail or not. In reference to the bullet points A, B, and C, the amount of the lien as compared to the value of the property. The lien is approximately 26% of the value of the property. Actions taken or not taken by the property owner in attempting to abate the code violation. The estate brought the property into compliance upon taking ownership after contacting the code enforcement officer. The amount of staff time expended to bring the property in compliance. The offer settlement amount of $5,000 covers the administrative staff costs of $602.15. The applicant, Joshua L. Moses, as executor to the estate of Chester Vanderpill III, is requesting the Code Enforcement Board approve a reduction of the Code Enforcement lien in the amount of $56,400 to $5,000 as the property is now in compliance for case number 20-18-CEB on the property located at Leonard Street, Altamont Springs, Florida, 32701, tax parcel ID 18-21-330-509-027 to be paid within 30 days, or the lien will revert back to the original amount, and authorize the chairman to execute the reduction of lien upon receipt of the appropriate payment of from the application. Staff has no objection to this request, and I would like to amend the beginning parcel ID number as the tax parcel ID listed on the requested action slide is the correct tax parcel ID. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fergnani. I do have a question. The applicant is Joshua L. Moses.
Yes.
And I think a part of the slide indicated he's the executor.
Correct.
To this estate,
Mhm.
but the property's since been sold. Is
Correct.
that correct?
At the time of his application, he was still the owner of the estate. He was going
Understood.
through the probate process.
Correct.
And then approximately 2 weeks or so after, then it was sold.
So the property has been sold, but yet the requesting party is the executor to the estate and not the new property owner?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yes.
So everybody understood that. Any further questions for Ms. Bergnoni? Seeing none, I would ask you to stand by because there may be additional questions from the board. Mr. Moses, are you here and desire to make a statement, sir? If you'll just give us your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Joshua Moses. I'm the personal representative of the estate of Chester Vanderpyle III. My address is 14445 Northwest Highway 464B in Morriston, Florida, 32668. I did not personally know the decedent. I've kind of come on after his passing. He passed in December of last year. I was contacted by a friend of his who asked me to serve as personal representative. So the exact reasons as to why the noncompliance occurred, I don't have firsthand knowledge. I've had the unique opportunity to get to know the decedent through his papers and belongings and different things, trying to figure out who he was and what might have happened. So my role has been to secure estate assets and take care of what affairs needed to be addressed, this parcel being one of those things. I do know the decedent lived in Cedar Key and passed away at the age of 81. He was a 100% disabled veteran, having served in the United States Navy back in Vietnam. His property was approximately 3 hours or so, probably more, from the parcel in question. It appears to be a maintenance violation, not keeping it upkept mode. I assume the distance took part in some of that delinquency, as well as there being a storm that caused some flooding and damage to the decedent's home. It's easy to get distracted from a lot that you're not close to and can stop by and check on. But once I was appointed as personal representative of his estate, and I did secure some funds to address the issue. Prompt action was taken, and I do want to thank the Code Officer Adair for communicating with me quickly and addressing the situation and allowing me to be informed and address the situation, as well as Ms. Brignoni and the staff of Seminole County who've made this process a pleasure to work through. I did bring some photos. I don't have a slide to give you of just the photos that Officer Adair had provided to me when I inquired about the condition.
Sure. We could get staff to put that up on the overhead.
As well as the photos of the remediary action, once I was able to get someone out there to clean up the property. I have two photos. Can you hear me okay?
We can. You have to get close to that mic.
Okay. This first photo is just one of the two photos that Officer Adair had provided to me of the current condition. Property just appears to be overgrown. Some grass had grown up, needed to be mowed. I believe it's an ungraded lot, so you couldn't just go out there with a lawnmower and take care of it. You had to get like a bush hog or some more heavy-duty mower to do that. Second photo is just another photo from a different angle of the parcel, showing that there was some growth on the lot. This is a photo taken from the individual that I'd hired to clear the lot, so that way it was brought into compliance, showing that all that underbrush and long grass had been reduced. Another photo from the street. Another from the street. And I have one somewhat blurry photo, forgive my printer, at home, of just kind of looking down the lane of the lot. This was addressed as promptly as the estate could. It has been a process trying to identify what assets were available. So as soon as I was able to secure some funds to take care of the lot, this was first item of business for me. So I hope that promptness in addressing the issue is taken into consideration by the board.
All right, Mr. Moses, thank you. Stand by for 1 second. Any questions of Mr. Moses? Commissioner Lockhart.
thank you so much, Mr. Moses, for your willingness to talk with me when this item was first brought before us, and I had some questions. You were very willing to talk through them with me. The storm that you mentioned in the letter that you sent as a part of this request, was that Hurricane?
I don't know exactly which one it was.
I think it
know-
was Idalia was the one that you mentioned.
That's what I expect it is. I don't know exactly which one it was.
That was the one that was mentioned in the letter, I believe. And so
Right.
that was in the fall of 2023. And so there were 2 years prior to that storm. I just wanted to make sure we were clear that what storm it was we were talking about there.
Right, yes.
I don't have any further questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Moses.
Thank you.
Stand by if you would, please. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item? Dominique, any speaker forms? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We'll go to the district commissioner for their recommendation. Commissioner Lockhart, this is your district.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Several things that I have considered and I've dug fairly deep into this item. While it is a brush and overgrowth issue, the neighbors who live immediately around this vacant lot have been living with that for many years. Not just the overgrowth, but the critters who have been inhabiting it. It's very easy, unfortunately, to ignore lots in certain neighborhoods in this county, and I feel like this would have moved along more quickly had it been in a different neighborhood. Mr. Vanderpyle was able to bring the lot into compliance at one time from a distance, and as we all know, bush hoggers are easy to find by calling and contacting from out of town, and so I don't believe that was really as much of a problem from a distance. Two things that I looked at specifically in terms of our policy regarding financial hardship or medical hardship, neither were claimed on this particular item. The value of the property compared to the amount of the lien is less than what we would normally consider. And I do appreciate very much Mr. Moses bringing the property into compliance as quickly as possible for the sake of the neighborhood. I do recognize that, but it was because my belief is, I surmise, that it's because we were trying to quickly settle an estate and sell a piece of property that occurred, not because it was needing to have been done for quite some time. So I am going to make a motion to deny the requested lien reduction for those reasons.
We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second for discussion purposes.
Second for discussion. Go ahead, Commissioner Hart.
So I have the same struggles with this in the sense that I see it all over the county, that the just disrespect for the neighbors is tough. And I think at one point in our history, we had the opportunity to ignore these lots because there were a lot more of them, and it felt like woods. But it doesn't anymore when you have a random lot in the middle of a neighborhood and it's let to become overgrown, and then it becomes a site for, quite honestly, drug activity, critters that crawl through it, and the neighbors have to deal with it. So where I struggle is with this notion, I mean, $5,000 doesn't even touch the impact that this had on the neighbors. And we see this time and time again where it's been our history that we just forgive them, and I can't figure out why that benefits the community. It only benefits, in this instance, the heirs. And quite frankly, and I don't know the situation, but in my opinion, family has a responsibility to take care of disabled veterans' properties as well. So I really, really struggle with the notion that we leave these neighbors holding the bag, we decrease their property values as we let these sit, and then there's absolutely no penalty at the end of it. $5,000 is not the right number.
I don't disagree. And there's a couple things that are very striking to me, and we've touched on this with our legal team, is, you know, the actual costs that were depicted here earlier, which were $900 and change. I'm going to tell you that comes nowhere close to the actual real cost of the fuel, the vehicle, the retirement, the payroll, the employees' time, and all the support staff that are behind the scenes working with us. And I understand legally there's only certain things that we're allowed to assess, but the reality is that's not even close to the scenario. Secondly, our code enforcement folks, through the sheriff's office, have always tried to assist these type property owners in getting them some additional services. In this case, we have a veteran services, through some of the faith-based groups, and allowing, some 501c3s to come out and maintain the property once in a while and get it back into compliance. This has not happened. And I, like Commissioner Herr, believe that although we all realize government tends to move slowly, all the while, it's the community that is taking the brunt of what's happening because of an owner. And honestly, the landscape that I observed there, it looks like to me a simple $50, $100 a month could have had a lawn service just go out and do it, so it never got to the point where it was quite frankly there. I can't speak to why that didn't happen or any of that, but I will be supporting the district commissioner's motion as we move along. If there's any other comments, we'll go to those. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign? Seeing none, carries unanimous. Thank you all very much. Mr. Moses, thank you for coming from Levy County, great county. I enjoy spending some time there myself. Thank you. If you should happen to have any questions, just get with our staff. All right, folks, our next item is we're going to go to our work session, which is scheduled today. This is going to be item number 51. This will be presented by Steve Riley and Daniel Rutland from Jacobs and Kim Ornberg for Environmental Services. This is Seminole County's Holistic Water Policy, item 2024-1069. Ms. Ornberg?
Good morning, and for the record, I'm Kim Ornberg, the Environmental Services Director here at Seminole County, and the purpose of today's work session is to present the county's long-awaited holistic water policy. And I know you all know we're very excited about this, and we're excited to have the opportunity to present it to you today. So our agenda is laid out as follows. We have the past, the present, and the future. So I'm going to give a brief history of the past, of the development of this water policy. And then Dan Rutland, project manager with Jacobs, will be presenting the foundation and details of the policy and the plan. And then last but not least, Keely Carlton, our new water policy program manager, will wrap things up by talking about our next steps. So here's our water policy timeline since 2020, when the holistic water policy was identified as a key strategic initiative, or key strategic priority, for the county. But I'd like to start a little bit prior to that. In 2014, the Central Florida Water Initiative, or CFWI, was developed by state and local agencies to address long-term sustainability and protection of our upper Floridan aquifer. And I know you all know this very well, but it is the most pristine source and virtually the source of all drinking water in Central Florida, as well as the source of our outstanding Florida springs, Lake Wekiva. So the CFWI focuses on drinking water supply, or water quantity, and impacts the county's consumptive use permits, or CUPs, which are the permits that allow us or limit our withdrawal from the upper Floridan aquifer to provide water that we treat and then distribute to our residents. And then in 2016, the Florida legislature adopted the Florida Springs and Aquifer Protection Act, that with a goal to protect and enhance or improve groundwater quality for our aquifers and springs. With this regulation, it requires the stakeholders, local governments, to develop plans to reduce or eliminate groundwater impacts caused by septic tanks and fertilizers to our groundwater sources and our springs as well. And it was with this knowledge and forethought that you all had, Board of County Commissioners, to adopt the holistic water policy as a key strategic priority back in 2020. But then, as you can see on the timeline, it also includes in 2020 the Wekiva Priority Focus Area Septic Tank Feasibility Analysis, which is a mouthful, but that focuses on groundwater quality impacted by septic tanks. And then the update of our water conservation plan in 2022, which focuses on water quantities. So then in 2022, we hired Jacobs to assist us with this project, and we began working together to develop a truly comprehensive holistic water policy, which brings us to where we are today, presenting the plan. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I will turn it over to Dan.
Ms. Arnberg, before you depart there, just one real quick question.
Oops, sorry.
I want to make sure this is a living document, correct?
Yes, sir.
This will continue as time progresses to be updated. This is not engraved in stone. This is subject to change based on legislation, based on environmental conditions, based on a lot of things that we are not aware of at this point. I just want to make sure, is that correct?
That is correct.
Great, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Good morning, sir.
All right, good morning. You guys hear me?
We can.
All right, thank you for the introduction, Kim. I'm very excited to be here today to talk about the holistic water policy.
Dan, if you give us your name and address for the
I'm sorry.
record.
Address as well?
Yes, please.
Daniel Rutland. I live here, and I stay here in Oviedo.
You can give your office address.
Work address. Work address is fine.
Okay, all right. 200 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida. All right. Are we ready?
Yes,
to go?
sir.
Is that
You're
everything?
Seminole County citizen.
Right.
Right. All right. So I'm very excited to be here today to talk about the holistic water policy and share some of the insight and great work that's been done to help Seminole County continue to lead the state in innovation and protection of water and natural resources. So our agenda today, I'm going to go over the background of the holistic water policy and its scope. We're going to go over the approach and the framework and categories specific to the county that were developed as part of the holistic water policy. And we're going to go over some of the developed programs and policies and the implementation plan that was developed as part of the policy as well. And then we'll have some closing comments. Oops. So for the background of the holistic water policy, it was identified in 2020 by the Board of County Commissioners as a key strategic priority, as Kim discussed. The holistic water policy was developed to provide a long-term vision and sustainable plan to meet all water resources needs and protect natural systems, and also to break down water resources across departments and jurisdictions within the county and broaden water resources development. It's also meant to integrate with the utilities master plan update that's currently ongoing with a work session that's scheduled in September. But we also incorporated the 2022 water conservation plan update and also identified specific programs and projects to meet the holistic water policy goals. So when we were asked to start the holistic water policy, we knew that we were about to embark upon something that was new. And as part of that, one of the things that we do is we do a literature review when we start a project to kind of ascertain what's going on in the market. What are the industry standards? What are the best management practices that are going on today? And one of the things that we found is that many one water projects are narrow in scope. They focus on a single water resource instead of focusing on a holistic approach. And then they incorporate one water principles as a secondary effect. So the holistic water policy as developed is a unique project. It is a true holistic approach to one water policy and a broad assessment of water resources across the county. As we said, the Holistic Water Policy Plan was guided by the 2022 KSPs. We included a county team of public works, utilities, parks and rec, communications, environmental services, and planning and development. And we worked with the county to develop a roadmap for implementation of the holistic water policy. As part of this, we developed 5 policy and program categories, including enhanced water conservation, developing alternative water supplies, enhancing water management, mitigating septic tank impacts, and implementation of water utility projects and programs. And all of this is rolled up into overall goals of enhancing water conservation, protecting and enhancing healthy waterways, maintaining a reliable and resilient water utility while achieving a paradigm shift in how water is managed throughout the county. For the Enhanced Water Conservation Program, we incorporated the 2022 Updated Water Conservation Plan. If implemented on its current schedule, it has the potential to decrease water use from its current level of 137 gallons per day per capita to the recommended level or goal of the 115 gallons per day per capita within the CFWI. And this could be potentially 11 years ahead of schedule on the CFWI regulatory schedule. Benefits of conserving water include reduced withdrawals of limited groundwater resources, deferring or eliminating costly alternative water resources development, reducing energy conservation, protecting and improving spring flows and MFLs, which is a regulatory requirement, and extending utility infrastructure's useful life. For the development of alternative water supplies, we identified that the 2020 CFWI Regional Water Supply Plan found that withdrawals from the upper Florida aquifer are projected to cause environmental impacts by 2025. As such, alternative water supplies will play a role in meeting future water demands in Seminole County beyond this 2025 date, and the county should continue to promote water conservation and reduce groundwater withdrawals while planning for alternative water supply projects where possible. And this means having the ability to move forward on projects as they're necessary in the future, and basically having that lever to pull. For mitigating septic tank impacts, the Wekiwa Springs and Rock Springs Basin Management Action Plan, or BMAP, estimates septic tanks contribute to 29% of nutrient pollution. House Bill 1379, enacted in May of 2023, prohibits new septic systems, requires long-term planning and reporting, and strengthens BMAP requirements. As such, the regulatory requirement priorities for Seminole County include the Wekiwa Springs Priority Focus Area under the existing BMAP and the Gemini Springs BMAP, or Basin Management Action Plan. This means that the Seminole County should continue to develop and implement the septic to sewer program to address some of these regulatory compliance issues. For the Enhanced Watershed Management Program, the goal is to reduce pollution to the county's waterways and protect water resources, and Seminole County has been doing a phenomenal job of this already. Several programs have been implemented to address water quality protections and improvements, and I'm not going to list all of them here, but some of them include the Shoreline Protection Program, the Ambient Water Quality Monitoring Program, and the Seminole Education Restoration and Volunteer Program, or the SERV program. For implementing water utility projects and programs, the reliable drinking water and wastewater services represent the highest level of water management responsibility administered by the county, and the implementation of projects to support the water utility are crucial to the holistic water policy success. The utility master plan is currently being updated to assess water and wastewater and reclaimed infrastructure through 2045, and it's critical that the holistic water policy be incorporated as part of that overall development, and it's intended to do just that. As part of the holistic water policy's development, we identified and assessed over 40 policies and programs. And we're not going to go over all of those today because we simply just don't have enough time, but we looked at all of these. We evaluated based off of them based off of impact, ease of implementation, estimated costs and synergies with other programs, projects, and policies. And then we pulled all of those together to organize them based off of priorities and their synergistic benefits. And if you look at the chart here to the right, you'll see the conservation plan, or the enhanced conservation sections, implementation and impact matrix, where up and to the right represents projects that are more attractive, and the smaller dots represent lower cost projects, and the bigger dots represent higher cost projects. And this analysis was completed across all 5 of the individual programs, and we developed recommendations and priorities to guide comprehensive water resources management. But establishment of these priorities doesn't mean that one project is better than the other, because all projects are important to the overall goal of the holistic water policy. Just some have a little bit higher priority due to cost effectiveness or ease of implementation. We also looked at the synergies between these projects. An example of this would be the septic to sewer increases reclaimed water availability for irrigation that can offset potable water demands and improve water quality for adjacent springs and water bodies. One thing that was important here is that the holistic water policy is intended to be actionable. We developed an implementation roadmap to outline solutions for short-term and long-term management, and Kim was instrumental in this process. These are tangible projects that can be completed and measured for performance using KSPs and dashboards for things like water conservation actions, like audits and controller rebates, or septic to sewer tank inspections for inspected, repaired, or removed. So as part of the success, or one of the keys to success of the holistic water policy, is establishing management strategies associated with the holistic water policy. A successful implementation requires departmental cooperation and a county advocate for the holistic water policy. And a departmental cooperation can include a holistic water policy panel or committee comprised of the county department representatives. But we also need a leader. And so we identified that the holistic water policy needs a program manager. And Keely was recently hired to head up the water policy program manager position. And she's going to lead the implementation of the holistic water policy, bridge departments for interdisciplinary projects, commit to the policy's success, communicate the policy's vision, collaborate with internal and external stakeholders, and report to the Board of County Commissioners on the status of the program implementation. Engagement is also a key component of holistic water policy, and connection with stakeholders and establishing partnerships is paramount. So the holistic water policy is designed to be inclusive of all municipalities and utilities within the county. And coordination with local and regional municipalities can help create solutions that benefit the entire county. The county can increase regional coordination with water management focus groups with stakeholders like residents and ratepayers, private water utilities, regulatory agencies, the Seminole County Soil and Water Conservation District, and the Department of Advisory Board, for instance. If there's anything associated with the uncertainties with planning, one thing is certain, that things will change. The holistic water policy has been developed as a living document so that we can update the implementation plan and project list comprehensively every 3 to 5 years. It is also designed to integrate with the master planning efforts, and policies and programs should be included as part of the county's comprehensive plan going forward, including stakeholders along the way. And last but not least, decision-making will need to be flexible, because we need to be able to address the challenges as we move forward with that we don't see today. So in summary, we reviewed the county's vision for creating the holistic water policy and the framework of the holistic water policy and its guiding principles. We reviewed the 5 programs and policy categories and the results of the development process. And lastly, we reviewed the implementation roadmap, including the short-term and long-term management, measures of performance, management of the holistic water policy, connecting with stakeholders, and finally, adapting for success. And with that, I'll hand it over to your new water policy program manager, Keely.
Hello, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Keely Carlton, the Water Policy Program Manager.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, awesome. So I know it was said already, but the Holistic Water Policy Plan is truly forward-thinking, and I really thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to be the one to implement such a robust plan. Our team is ready and we're excited for the next steps, which is related to stakeholder engagement. So that was kind of in the last part of Dan's presentation. It is key with such a robust and ambitious plan to collaborate early and often with the stakeholders. So what we're trying to do now is form a stakeholder engagement plan. So this involves creating a list of agencies, organizations, and groups in our region that hold interest in water. And that list is quite long and intensive. So I'm really excited to kind of dive right in and start talking to our community, engage with regional partners such as the Water Management District and DEP, the cities that we serve, and the Development Advisory Board, Soil and Water Conservation District, and other environmental groups such as the Friends of the Wekiva and Friends of Lake Jessup. And we would love any suggestions that you guys have as we, dive into the stakeholder engagement. But that is our next steps. And after we do some engagement, get some feedback from the community and these organizations, we will come back to you guys with an update and ask for the formal adoption of this plan. So.
Thank you very much. Any questions from staff? Commissioner Lockhart.
Just a couple of quick suggestions. I'm so glad you're here. Glad to see us moving forward with this. It's been a labor of love, mostly love. It's been a labor, I know. In terms of engagement with various stakeholders, the DAB is certainly a group that interacts with the county regularly. I would also recommend reaching out to folks who are involved in the outside collaborative. There are many folks in the private sector, whether they be landscape architects, developers that aren't necessarily involved in the DAB, different folks in the process that are involved in the process of bringing a development to fruition that have different viewpoints. And I would love to see some way to include them as well. All of the other, agencies, utilities, and St. John's, and all, they're all fabulous. I think we need to balance it out with some more private sector folks.
Awesome. Thank you for that suggestion.
Commissioner Herr.
Just a few comments, and thank you for the presentation. I actually think this was done quite nicely from the perspective that we started at 100,000 feet and didn't get too far into the weeds. So nothing that I'm about to say should drag us into the weeds, just for the record. But I would like to understand what the timing is for the financial implications. And I would presume that the recommendation is that we start working in the upper right-hand corner, most effectively, least costly. And so how do we map that out over time? I imagine that's somewhere to come. I don't need an answer now, but we have to start thinking about that now because there are too many other initiatives that are on the table from a financial perspective, and if we don't start putting the money to this, we will lose track and not get it implemented. It cannot become a plan that sits on a shelf. That's, I guess, the most important message there. Somewhere along the line, I need to understand detail around the comment in here around we should monitor the performance of existing septic tanks, because that is a quagmire. And that was a gracious word to use, because there's others that I could use.
That would be appropriate.
That would be appropriate on this topic. Yeah. But there is this happening. There's like 4 sets of fingers all pointing at each other when you start to raise the issue of, I think I have septic tanks that are problematic. No one wants to touch that, quite literally. So we need some specific guidance around that, and we may in fact need changes to our current legislation. I'm not sure, but it's right now not in a good situation. And then with regard to stakeholders, I would throw a couple others that were not mentioned on here. I think we have to start getting in front of HOA presidents and boards Certainly, some of the highest usage portion of the county resides in my district. It's HOAs that, the minute you have a brown spot on the grass, somebody's sending you a letter. So we need to get in front of those organizations because they believe they're doing the right thing by enforcing the quality of life in their communities, and in fact may be causing the neighbors to violate the rules. And then the last one that I would throw in there is PBAS. They are just a good group of ambassadors, and I'm not saying that we need to get input from them, but I am saying that we need to keep them very well informed of what we're doing. It is a great ambassador group and easy to access. And that's it. Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner Constantine, did you have your hand up? I thought I saw you.
But I do want to say something.
Go ahead. Commissioner Constantine and Commissioner Delary.
Well, first of all, to Jacobs, good analysis, good first step or second, third, fourth, fifth step, because I know that we've seen other variations of this, and it seems that you've really put together with the input from our staff, a truly holistic program that now has to be implemented, and we know the difficulties of doing that. To our new water policy guru, I'll just call you that. I think your mother's going to be very happy because she came up to me at a meeting and said, I want to bring my daughter back to Seminole County because she was working in another county. So I just wanted all to know that this young lady is a Seminole County resident from the beginning, so we're getting another individual that understands the community, and so therefore we're real excited to have you, and I look forward to working with you and Kim and the whole staff on this, because as you've all indicated, this is truly unique, forward-thinking. Everybody tries to do aspects of one, as they call it, one water, but basically it's just looking at a individual slice of the pie. And if we can truly coordinate and implement this as a holistic water policy, we will be so far ahead of the curve. And so I look forward to working with all of you. And I think that every one of our policies that we do when it comes to water has to be balanced on this plan, making sure that everything we do is part of this overall water policy. So congratulations, and I look forward to seeing more things come down the line.
Commissioner Delary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you. I think it's nice to get going with this. I know we've talked about it all for a while. I appreciate the new staff member coming on board. I also appreciate Jacobs, what they're doing, and I think the direction is most appropriate. First of all, I've been looking for this for the past couple days because we've been getting our briefings for the past week. This is the first time I've seen it. I would like to get the presentations earlier so I can actually read it and digest it. The reason why I say that is because in looking at the presentation, this text here I really can't read yet. I need a magnifying glass. And so I'd appreciate either a larger text or the presentation earlier so I can get the magnifying glass to look at it.
Commissioner, if you actually bring it up electronically, you can expand it out.
Oh, I understand that, but this is all I got today.
Understood.
Okay, this is what I got today. And looking at our plan from 2020, it actually said that we're at 118 gallons per capita, and now we're at 137 gallons per capita. Any idea what happened?
The CFWI numbers?
They found the real numbers.
Those were CFWI 2020 numbers.
No, in the report from Corolla, it says that was per capita, not that number.
Oh, the report from Corolla may be looking at different analysis.
Okay.
Those numbers were CFWI-based numbers. So that comes directly from the 2020 CFWI water use, our regional water supply plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. I do have a few comments, some for the benefit of the public eventually to help especially some of those in my district, understand how this hopefully is not going to impact them. Sitting on the CFWI myself, what I would tell you is this is a great program, but Seminole County is light years ahead of a lot of other jurisdictions. I was, I guess, not surprised or amazed sitting on the CFWI what other jurisdictions have not done around the state, and where they're ultimately going to unfortunately find themselves if they can't get their ducks in a row on their cups and how that will be impacted. In fact, that's why we had to advocate legally not to be penalized from FDEP here a few years back, based on we had already deployed many measures to protect our water as well as cut back on water usage. Not to say that we're perfect, not to say there's not a lot of room for improvement, which we would argue, I think all of us, that we've got a long way to go. It has to go into the comp plan, and here's one fear that I know specifically folks in my district and Commissioner Delari's district are going to have. When you start talking about this septic to sewer scenario, I think all of us agree that's eventually a good thing. The fear becomes in the rural area, if you're going to run infrastructure in to eventually one day convert those septics to sewer, then the argument is the infrastructure is now there to promote future development into areas that we do not want developed. So it's going to be paramount that we delineate that appropriately in the comp plan in anticipation that we protect the areas that the citizens of this county want protected as the rural area. I've got a whole list, and I won't go through them. I've probably got a dozen or two stakeholders that should be engaged. I would only caution that engagement with those stakeholders probably should be undertaken initially to find interest and value, because the reality is you get too many stakeholders at the table that are giving opinions, and you cannot arrive at any grand scheme of moving forward. But everybody should be heard, and those who want to participate and should participate, and some of those can group together perhaps and represent as an industry. So with that said, I'm glad we're finally here. I'm glad we understand this is a living document that will be updated from time to time. I actually would like to see us, and I don't have to have an answer today, that we actually insist this be updated at least every 2 years and not wait out 5 years or 3 years. I think a 2-year turn. This issue, it was abundantly clear to me sitting on CFWI, this is a fast-moving train, and it's going to move faster. And with development happening at the pace it is in areas outside of Seminole County, is going to cause us to have to react much quicker. And the good news is those that came before us sitting on this board had the initiative and staff to do some things to get us ahead of the game. So we're in a pretty good place, but we need to keep moving. We probably ought to keep moving pretty quickly, but need to be updated every 2 years. I like the idea of keeping the board apprised. I would advocate quarterly or at least biannually at a minimum, depending on how things go. So that's all I have to say on that. Anyone else? Thank you all very much. Is there anybody here from the public that wishes to make any statements on this topic? Seeing none, is there anything from the county attorney's office or county manager's office before we break for our midday break?
I have nothing, Chairman. Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
From the commission, anything else good for the order?
No, sir.
Other than go Lake Mary Little League. We'll be in recess till 1:30. Thank you all.
Thank you.